Tuesday, September 3rd at 4:30. First order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have a request for remote attendance for our third selectman. Per RSA 91A:2, Roman numeral 3. It is up to the committee whether or not it wants to permit such participation, and my vote is no, so I see no need to make a motion. Unless you would like to make a motion, John?
No.
All right. Approval of minutes from August 20th, 2024.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as printed.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Manifest. Payroll, $43,318.38. Payroll liabilities, $13,689.18. Accounts payable, $83,332.18. MES, $325,000 for a total of $465,339.74.
I make a motion to accept the manifest.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public comment. Bill?
Yes, hi, good afternoon, Bill Dempster, 157 Door Drive. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'll be quick. We reached a milestone today. Cumulative fines for the property owners issued C&D citations have reached the $1 million threshold. That's how much is available. State statutes provide mechanisms for the municipalities to levy and collect civil fines with no cost to the taxpayers of municipalities. There's a minimum that I could find, and I know there's more. There are 6 RSAs that detail the process to collect these civil fines. There's multiple reference cases where municipalities have collected up to, in some cases, $300,000. Madison itself has collected $14,000, which included the legal fees and fines, and that was for the Verace property. And the town has appropriated the funds to pursue, which are reimbursable by the courts. That is the STR legal ETF. We're approaching budget season right now. I would hope the board would take this information into consideration and pursue this limited revenue opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You got a copy of that?
Bill?
Bill, you got a copy of that?
Copy of what?
What you just read?
I can make one for you if you want.
Okay.
Any other public comment? You state your name, please.
Karen Dukasinski, Mount Washington Drive. I've been asked to read a letter that was submitted by John Cancelarich a month ago to the Selectmen.
It went in your he asked for it to go in your correspondence and I put it in your correspondence. He wanted it read aloud by me, but I said that's not how that would work.
Good. Yep.
Dear Board of Selectmen, new STRs defined as new builds or previous properties with no rental history have been a non-permitted use in Madison since March 2022. The Board of Selectmen Attorney, the prior Planning Board Attorney, members of the Planning Board, and the ZBA through appeals have all agreed that rentals for the periods less than 30 days are prohibited use. Based on the current zoning ordinance dated 2022, the Selectmen are not properly fulfilling their duties. Instead, I am witnessing a Board of Selectmen that is not transparent about this issue. Approximately 1 month ago, the building inspector notified the Board of Selectmen of 3 new STRs that violated the ordinance. The Board of Selectmen has not openly discussed these violations or instituted the process toward C&Ds. Why? Madison's ordinance clearly states, 1, that the Board of Selectmen shall not have the power to permit any use of land or buildings which is not in conformance with this ordinance. Section 2.1a. And number 2, shall initiate immediate steps for enforcement of this ordinance upon well-founded information of any violation thereof by issuing due notice to cease and desist such violation and take such necessary and other action as may be permitted. Section 2.1E. The Board of Selectmen is engaging in selective enforcement by choosing to enforce or ignore violations of the zoning ordinance and the New Hampshire state statutes. Nor can the Board of Selectmen base zoning enforcement decisions on their personal opinions or biases. Please perform your duties as you were voted into office to do. Enforce the ordinance and commence the process as detailed in the Madison zoning ordinance C&D letters. Lastly, the Board of Selectmen has a duty to collect all costs and reasonable attorney's fees as actually expended in pursuing its action as permitted by the state statute. Zoning ordinance section 2(1)(f) and RSA 676-6, 676-15, 676-17. Where's the transparency in Nicholas Gage, 10 Barton Street and 81 Knight Road cases? When and where did the Board of Selectmen discuss these fees in either a public meeting or non-public meeting? Who and why did the Board of Selectmen decide not to collect over $20,000 at 10 Barton Street and $63,500 at 81 Knight Road of fines and lawyer fees? Thank you for your attention to this important matter. Sincerely, John Cancelarich, 18 Idlewild Drive. And the 2.1 enforcement violations and penalties. It shall be the duty of the Board of Selectmen and its designated building inspector to A, generally administer and enforce the provisions of this ordinance. The Board of Selectmen shall administer this ordinance literally and shall not have the power to permit any use of land or buildings which is not in conformance with this ordinance. Variances and exceptions may only be approved or granted as required by law by the zoning board of adjustment. B, issue a zoning permit for the change of use of any permitted activity, land or building, or from one use to another, upon written application for said zoning permit. Such a zoning permit may be a prerequisite to any subdivision approval, site plan approval, or building permit issuance. C, a non-refundable fee shall be paid to the town with each application for a building permit as listed in the building permit fee, as that schedule may be amended by the Board of Selectmen from time to time. D, issue a certificate of compliance upon completion of any new structure and prior to use of any building or structure within the town of Madison upon inspection to ensure the same was completed and constructed in accordance with the terms of this ordinance. E, initiate immediate steps of enforcement of this ordinance, well-founded information of any violation thereof by issuing due notice to cease and desist such violation and taking such necessary and other action as may be permitted by the statute for both criminal and civil enforcement of the same, including, but not limited to, seeking a civil fine of $275 per day for the first offenses for each day the violation continues after the owner has been notified of that violation, and
Hold on, can you hold on one
$550
second,
per day.
please? Is there anybody else in here that wishes to speak in public comment? Because we're gonna run out of time in about 5 minutes and I'm gonna need to hold you to like 1 more minute.
Yep, there's like 5 more lines per day. Subsequent violations, failure by the selectmen to not initiate enforcement under this ordinance will not constitute a waiver of the town's right to take such action. F, upon instituting appropriate action in the name of the town to prevent, restrain, correct, or abate any violation of this ordinance, collect all costs and reasonable attorney's fees as actually expended in pursuing its action as permitted by state statute. Thanks.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Go ahead.
Hi, Paulette Lowry, Silver Lake. You'll have to excuse me because I'm very old and I have to write notes, and I have questions from the last selectmen's meeting in reference to the Veterans Monument. I would like to find out who removed the monument from its place to begin with. Does anybody have an answer?
That would be us.
Who's
Can we
us?
go with the rest of the questions? We're running out of time for public comment. This is something that
Alright.
should have been on the agenda.
Okay, and then what is the cost to have it repaired?
I don't know off the top of my head. We'd have to dig that information up. You can see the town hall during normal business hours for that information, or get yourself on the agenda for the next meeting.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right. Discussion items and new business. Wilcox and Barton PFAS report. How you doing?
Good, good. I guess I'll start.
Yeah.
We got the report from our hired engineers, and this report has been sent to the DES for their review, evaluation, and determination of further action. Based on the highly scientific information contained in the report, I asked Mr. Barton to come up and
Give us a rundown.
present it to the board and be available to explain what the scientific stuff means.
Okay. All right, so my name is Russell Barton, environmental consultant for the town here. Wilcox and Barton, the environmental consultant for this particular activity. Take it a quick step back. This whole thing started back around March or February of 2001 when we had collected some samples, or when the town, the DES had come in and collected some samples of the drinking water water out behind the library. Evidence of PFAS, which is per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, present in the drinking water sample. After some back and forth with the town, a little bit of history, a little bit of information shared, follow-up sampling was performed, and around June of 23, I believe, I have the exact date, they issued the request for a focused site investigation. That's where I came from. We were the consultant selected to complete the focused site investigation, and between then and through the winter, really kind of starting in April of 24, we got things really underway, where we had begun to implement the work plan that we had prepared for the DES for the completion of the focused site investigation. The work included the installation of 5 monitoring wells in various strategic locations outside of the town hall, outside of the fire station, behind the fire station, along the road. And the short answer is we pretty much found some of these PFAS compounds at different levels in all of the monitoring wells that we had installed. So the scope of work for the focused site investigation is very prescribed. It's a regulatory-based approach. So we implemented those activities, and we've had some dialogue back and forth with the DES. Conceptually, they've approved the document, although I haven't found an official letter to that effect. But we have had a number of back and forth conversations with those folks about what is a logical progression of the next activity, which would include some follow-up sampling and some additional drinking water sampling within the properties, typically within a 500 or 1,000 foot radius of, we'll use the fire station as a center point, for example. So that's kind of where we stand with regards to the next upcoming activities. The process is pretty long and drawn out, as you might expect, and there's a number of milestones along the way which I'll be glad to share with you folks if you have some questions. Typically the way the process goes is once we have kind of established an idea of where the contaminants are and where they are not, the project is put into what's called a groundwater management permit. And then within the groundwater management permit, there's established sampling protocols, frequency, locations set forth by the DES in collaboration with myself and the consultants. And it's typically issued for a 5-year period. And every 5 years, the permit is renewed depending on the findings, modified. There are certainly opportunities for adjustments to be made throughout the process, but that's kind of the 40,000 foot flyover in terms of, where the target is with respect to the sampling frequency and monitoring and such. Unfortunately, technology is not really there to offer a real permanent solution for the problem. So oftentimes the strategy is to simply mitigate the risk and ensure that no one has been impacted by the compounds, and then drop it into a less frequent monitoring program so you can kind of keep tabs on it, you know, because there's no real cost-effective and established solution at this point, based on what's commonly referred to as an emerging contaminant. PFAS is referred to as an emerging contaminant. And so all the studies and all the activities that are happening behind the scenes are still ongoing to come up with a strategy to really come up with a plan for mitigating the problem. Unfortunately, it's kind of showing itself everywhere. So I think it's part of a much larger problem, but based on the history, reasonable high probability that, you know, based on in the 90s, there was some firefighting foam used within the town for training, for safety, for all of the above, and that's the likely source of this problem. So.
Okay, but I have a couple of questions. Number one being, if we sample this 500-foot radius of that well, we find contaminants, does that radius expand then?
It
We have to
does.
continue to go outside that?
It does.
And is there any way you can put a ballpark dollar figure on these 3 steps that we have listed here going forward?
We had done some preliminary budgeting, at least for the treatment systems. Is that the 4 questions here that we're talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first, there is some opportunity for some funding, some grant funding for these, specifically the treatment systems that oftentimes will go on the drinking water wells. There are opportunities to have grants offered through the state to pay for that types of stuff. Those typically are in the $3,000 to $5,000 range per system. The groundwater sampling event that we're talking about completing, along with the drinking water sampling event, is estimated to be in the $15,000 range for a fall event. Kind of early on in the process. But that'll get you through the calendar year if we kind of comply with a fall sampling event.
So another 15,000 is what you're saying?
For this year?
Yep. Although we haven't been issued an official request from the DES. Typically, the sampling is performed seasonally. They like to see the seasonal fluctuations between the high water tables that you might see in the spring, and oftentimes, you know, sometimes the lower water tables in the summer or the fall. So they like to see the different seasons with the different sampling results to target opportune times to get what's most representative of the results.
Does this open the door to other testing? We're looking for something else? Because I work at the transfer station, we got 5 wells up there. And we built that transfer station over 20 years ago. And we were told at that point, oh, in less than 10 years, you're not gonna be having any testing done. Well, the goalposts have been moved.
Understood. Yeah, typically, I think to answer your question with respect to the PFAS, no. You sample for PFAS, you look for PFAS. The bigger question is, right now you've got 5 regulated compounds. 5 turns into 8, 8 turns into 12. There's the sampling list is up over 30 compounds now. And so what's more likely to happen, using your goalpost reference, is they're gonna change the number of compounds that they're looking at. EPA's already published some new standards for drinking water that are designed to be adhered to in 5 years. So I think the more likely scenario is that it's gonna get harder and harder to comply with a condition of no further action, because the list is gonna continue to grow and the standards are gonna continue to move.
That's what I thought. So you're looking for another test this fall? And we don't have the money.
Well, first and foremost, we're waiting, this is a recommendation from our consultant. Their report submitted to DES, we need some kind of.
DES to confirm that that's the proper.
Yep, that it's Yeah, the recommendations are, you know, pretty logical based on having done this, you know, for a number of other projects in a number of other municipalities, and it's, go ahead.
In your experience, do they generally follow your recommendations, or have, what can you tell us, are they likely to add more, or?
I would imagine they won't be less and they could add more, but this is step just after the focus site investigation, so it's really early on in the process. So my experience is that they're gonna make that they're gonna support that recommendation, and then based on those findings, particularly the drinking water well sampling, that's where you could start to see it kind of come unravel a little bit based on the findings.
So at what point do we approach these 14 private wells?
We should wait for the DES to cut their official letter
Yep.
requesting the work. And then at that point, you know, it's kind of, they'll typically put a window in there, 180 days, 90 days, you know, whatever they deem appropriate for you to complete that work and to submit those findings. At that point, that's where kind of a collaborative back and forth between us and the town to, you know, make the contacts. Typically, there's a very informal, non-legal access agreement that's prepared where the homeowners have an opportunity to decline the request or accept the request to let us come in and do the sampling.
And you do that?
Yes.
So the $15,000 for the comprehensive fall sampling, does that include testing the 14 private wells, or is
Yes,
that
it does.
additional? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
And are you aware, would that be covered by PFAS funding that the EPA has put out?
Consulting dollars are not typically covered by PFAS funding through DES. Some of my municipalities have used ARPA funds for covering consulting fees. It's kind of a internal decision that they make as to whether or not to use that money for that. But DES doesn't currently have a reimbursement program for consulting fees for PFAS. But they do, and I mentioned as I opened that there are monies typically available for drinking water treatment systems and maintenance.
But what about the testing? The testing is
testing-
not consulting.
The testing, when it's been my experience, and I kind of, when the treatment system consultant gets into the mix, I'm not always 100% privy to what portion of those fees are reimbursable. It kind of comes down to the way that the grant was written originally for the money, and they try to get those sampling and analysis covered under their agreement. So that's why the treatment systems are typically, we manage the reporting and the data piece of it, but the technicians are often interfacing directly with the town and the DES to try to maximize the recovery for you guys.
I have spoken with a couple different people at DES. It's all fact-finding at this point until actual steps need to be taken, but the bottom line is, through what I've gathered from them, we're gonna need to engage our local representatives in Concord, get them on board with helping us with everything that we have to do with DES to maximize what we can get covered and what we can't.
Makes sense.
And when we're talking about DES, is this related to, and the way we have to go through to get to the EPA and the infrastructure funding that's just come
The
out?
federal funds come down to the state and the state pays it out, and DES is the agency dealing with these funds.
Okay, thank you.
So we need to find some money, essentially.
Well, we need to plan
Yeah.
for it. My last conversation, right after this report was approved by the town, and it was immediately submitted. A couple days later, I got a call from DES on it, related, but not related to this report, but related to the issue. And I asked her, she could confirm receipt, but there's approximately 42 people need to read this report in different offices in Concord, all in DES. You know, each species of flora, fauna, all that stuff, everybody's got an expert. There's a lot of people that need to read this and then get together and determine how they're gonna respond. She told me, and this was 3 weeks ago, maybe a month we would get a response from them. So we've got another week or two before.
I'm a parent, I know what maybe means.
Right.
There's a, I mean, for what it's worth, there is a genuine, and I've had conversation with them, there is a genuine understanding that this is not the kind of thing that, you know, the town budget's for. And they do wanna try to extend as many, you know, resources out to you folks as possible to try to help with, to get some of those costs. But again, it's an outlay, and then it's a request for the reimbursement, which then comes back from the DES. So there is, unfortunately, that kind of capital outlay that needs to happen. But, you know, assuming the grants are in and assuming they're approved, they do want to try to get the reimbursement done relatively quickly, because they obviously understand, you know, that it's a burden.
And just professionally, we've engaged you for what was determined to be phase 1.
Right.
Can we consider you engaged, or are we gonna have to do some kind of amendment to ensure your engagement throughout?
It's my experiences with, you know, Wyndham, Stratham, Goshen, other towns, is that there's a master agreement in place, and that work orders are issued based on the requests of the DES, and we just kind of go along and we factor in budgets and timelines, and we collaborate on how to get them done within the timelines, and we communicate openly with DES about, you know, when this stuff can and can't happen. So thus far for me, I've been the consultant for, at least for Wyndham and Stratham, for the last 5 years, doing the same thing under the base focus site agreement request.
Because I'm just thinking is, obviously our next, we gotta wait for their response, but assuming they're gonna follow your recommendation, we're looking at another test at our site, a treatment system on our well, testing at 14 private wells, an unknown, if it's found, we're gonna have to put a treatment system there.
Yeah, if it's found, it typically transitions right to like a bottled water. You know, the towns usually set up an account with a Monadnock or a Green Mountain Water or somebody like that, where they come in, you know, and say here, and the bottled water is kind of the immediate first step. So with the town of Wyndham, they requested that I establish a scope of work and bid documents for treatment system design, monitoring, and installation. The town of Stratham did it a little bit differently, and I mentioned this to Michael here, because there's a state contract that's already in place for treatment systems for PFAS, and it's the same contractor that ended up winning the scope, the bid in Wyndham. And my interactions with Stratham is that it's just been quite a bit easier to facilitate under the state contract. The rates were very similar, they were very competitive. It was a publicly bid project, and they just kind of, you know, they just put the treatment systems in. There's a initial step where they evaluate the water quality, not just the PFAS, but, you know, metals and bacteria and things like that, because that influences the type of treatment that you may have in addition to the carbon. And then the carbon systems are designed, installed, and then monitored all through the state contract, which I find the level of interaction is much easier for the town under that agreement for them. So, and the irony is that, you know, the contractor that's doing both towns won it in a different fashion, but, you know, it's basically following the same path. But I think the town of Stratham had a lot less red tape to go through to implement it. So,
Was theirs caused from foam use?
yes, yeah. In both cases, Wyndham was training up on the hill, and Stratham was something similar, where they were maintaining the vehicles, cleaning out the hoses, stuff like that. And it was just kind of, they were dumping it onto the ground, similar to what happened after they asked you folks to stop putting it into the septic system. But similar.
So it looks like our numbers went up with the PFNA number. We had tested 3 years ago, at 429. May of 2023 went down to 251, but it looks like we're back up to 300.
Yeah, that's the drinking water well for the town that you're looking at, those
Yeah.
numbers. Yeah, because I believe the monitoring wells were pretty consistent over the 2 sampling events. That said, it was, they're pretty close. The idea of the different seasons, May versus summer, there's some seasonal variations sometimes, but at the same time, there's variables when you start dealing with drinking water wells. It's a 500-foot some odd drinking water well out there behind the library, and so volume, the amount of water that's moving through the system can influence. Just a slight variation in the depth could open up a fracture or close up a fracture that may have, higher compounds in it that would normally be submerged versus exposed. So the trending data that they like to see is really grounded in the science behind, where the water table elevations are, what season it is, and then you start to map the variations, start to understand the different compounds that are showing up, season over season, and it starts to tell a story about, what the compounds are doing, how they're moving, and what season it's oftentimes higher or lower.
Yeah, the 3 that I'm referencing are all from May.
Okay.
1 from 2023 and 2 from 2024.
So if I had to guess, it probably has to do with the usage. Maybe there's a spike or a decline in usage from one year to the next.
So those wells can be used for hand washing and things like that, but not consumption. Is that correct?
Yeah, the concerns with PFAS is primarily ingestion, and really it pertains to large volumes, so, most people brush their teeth with it and stuff like that, but, they try to suggest that the bottled water be used for drinking and for cooking and stuff like that. Cooking's probably even a little bit on the conservative side, but nevertheless, the perception associated with it is kind of a unique personal choice that most homeowners make. So, but like the larger volumes of ingestion is what they're trying to really steer everybody away from.
It's a relatively high concentration given what the EPA wants to see, which on that, the PFNA is 10 parts per million. So
You've got some pretty high numbers.
yeah, we're at 300, 280.
Yeah. Yep.
So even a smaller amount of ingestion could.
Yep. Yeah, some of the monitoring wells are up over 700 in a few cases too. So, and different sections of the aquifer, and I'm glad you're not using a dug well for what it's worth. But, the treatment system is designed to knock those concentrations down to what EPA is going to want to see in 5 years. Let's hope that stays that way.
So what immediate measures should we be taking? I know there's already bottled water in the facilities that draw from those wells.
Yeah, the next real risk mitigation piece would be to put a treatment system on the well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
I'm all done with my questions unless you
I'm all set. Thank you.
appreciate your time.
Sure, of course.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Mad TV alternate appointment.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So we have a request for appointment for Noreen Downs to be Mad TV directors. The only problem being that in 2006, 2005, the Board of Selectmen made it clear, sorry, before I put my foot in my Yeah, the Board of Selectmen made it clear that Mad TV directors will not sit on any other town board. So we have a decision to make.
Is the candidate on another board?
Conservation Commission.
Yes.
And that was bylaws from about 20 years ago. Are those the current bylaws?
I don't know if there's any bylaws specifically written. There were supposed to be. I've never seen them. This was.
That was out of town board.
This was
Did
from
we request any
2005.
bylaws from them at all?
I think there was something that like in some of the minutes, it said something about when you make up your bylaws.
Yeah.
I did, when this came to light, back in January, I think it was, I did ask around to Mark Graffam if he knew of any bylaws, if he remembered anything, having been the history with, that Mark had with it. He didn't remember a physical bylaw document, but he did distinctly remember the part about the selectmen not serving as a Mad TV member and the Mad TV members not serving on other boards, so much so that Roger Sear was a ZBA alternate, and he left the ZBA alternate to serve on the Mad TV board.
I mean, I'd like to contact the current PEG TV board and ask them for their current bylaws or.
They couldn't come up with any.
Okay.
Yeah, because we Hope and them, they tried to find some and they couldn't recall any either. It just was kind of ambiguous, but there are spots in the minutes where it's definitely discussed with the selectmen where
And where did this Board of Directors responsibilities come from?
that the town clerk's office had in their sheet, their folder where they put all their oaths.
So there is a Madison TV Board of Directors responsibilities held by the town clerk's office, at which note 3 says that they have a set of bylaws, which are general rules the board follows, and then note says the current set of bylaws excludes any director from holding another position on various boards. This was done to eliminate the possible perception of favoritism or biases for or against a particular political agenda.
I think the intent looks pretty clear, whether it's in a bylaw or not. But we could probably solve it pretty easily by contacting the person applying if they would step down from that position in order to get appointed back on Mad Television.
Can you contact Noreen and find out if she wants to step down from conservation to do this, or if she would rather not be on Madison TV? One or the other. Next item, Mr. McKenna.
I'm Paul McKenna from Madison. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I have a few questions that I'm hoping the town will answer for us. And my first one is pertaining to SDRs. How come Attorney Cordell Johnson has not joined this lawsuit? The town is being sued along with the ZBA. So I understand, from what I've been told, you guys were already discussing this, so.
Nope.
No, we weren't discussing it. I was gonna bring it up.
Okay, but
It sounds like Linda already answered all of your questions. Is there something specific you
she
didn't?
didn't answer this question in general. I'd like to know why you haven't hired Cordell Johnson. He is the expert on SDRs. A few administrations ago, actually Josh Shatford's administration hired him specifically from the New Hampshire Municipal Association once he retired because he was so well versed on STRs. And it seems to me that you've got to use every tool that's in your box to fight this thing.
Well,
You're gonna get-
I agree with you.
You're
That's
gonna
why it
get
was on my
one
agenda.
bite of this apple. Why would you being a machinist, why would you not use all the tools in the box that you have?
Right, no, I'm just, so the answer that Linda gave you is that John had it on his list, which means neither one of us, myself or Joy, would know that John had it on his list. It sounds
Okay.
like he was gonna bring it up tonight,
Okay.
be my understanding. And if that's the case, we can talk about that in a little bit when we come to his list. I don't have a problem with it. I don't like spending money, but it is
But
what it is.
I appreciate you telling me that, but I think you probably understand, it's like having an ace pitcher and not using them. And I'd like to go further with what I'm asking on this, if you don't mind, please.
Yep.
If you decide to use him as co-counsel, I would suggest that not just as for information, I would suggest that he attend and sit beside Attorney Bolt. Two heads are better than one. So that would be my first question. Linda was very helpful answering some of the other questions. She's excellent to deal with, I'd like to say that. And
If I could speak to that point while you're looking for your next thing, I know that we had to have separate attorneys for the two different, for the town and the ZBA. So we
Is
would
there-
just need to make sure that you
is
say
there a law or something that says that? Or-
There's just, I think, a conflict of interest fear. I don't recall if there was a specific incident or not, I don't recall. But there was an intentional decision to
Okay.
have two separate attorneys, so we just need to tread carefully, find out what that reason was, and if it applies here, we need to tread carefully.
Good to know. And, just to reiterate what I said, it's, you gotta use all the tools you have. And on the second question that I had, I don't believe I really got an answer that I thought was satisfactory. You might think different. I'd like to know what happened to the 3 SDRs that were submitted to Bob Boyd for C&D letters. That happened on July 3rd, because Chairman Price, had told a lady at a prior meeting, you gotta go through the chain of events, which we did, and they submitted those for C&D letters, those 3. What's going on with that?
Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to touch base with Bob on those as to whether or not he has looked into them.
And that was July 3rd. So maybe
Bob's
you
a
could
busy
look
guy.
into it? Would you please look into it, is what I'm asking you now?
Yep.
Thank you. And right now, my next question, the first SDR that's on the docket, which I believe is in October, is 13 Lucerne. The current stat, we believe 13 Lucerne is now up for sale. So what I'm wondering is, as of right now, have they withdrawn their suit?
I don't believe
I
so.
don't believe so. No, they have not, not to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul. All right, old business.
Well, wait a minute, we want to discuss bringing on the second attorney seat,
Yeah, we can do that now.
because it's gonna come up later anyhow.
Yep.
My personal feeling is, never take a knife to a gunfight. And we have to have the best team we can put together. I think Cordell would be sitting in the second seat, as they call it, second chair. I mean, if we're gonna do this, This is our one chance to get a straight answer. And if we go in, not to criticize Attorney Bolt, but if we don't go in with the best team we got, the result may not be what we anticipate.
Well,
So I put that on the table for consideration.
the only drawback that I can see to that is paying two attorneys to do the same thing, but I understand your point.
Did we find out how much money we have left on that?
I didn't get, I forgot, you asked and I forgot to do it. Sorry.
We've got money.
Everybody's got money. The other side to what you said is I'm not 100% sure that these cases are gonna be the end-all be-all because of the way the suit was filed, but we'll see when that happens. As long as there's nothing stopping us legally from having both attorneys do it, I'm okay with it.
I did ask Cordell
You
if that
did?
would be something that he would do, and he said he would do it on the direction of you guys, so.
So the exact ask is to put Cordell at the table
As co-counsel with Attorney Bolt.
in these cases? Would it be all cases or specific?
Just this October 9th right now, because that's the one that's pending.
Yeah, and it's, 13 Lucerne. Because the other two cases that were going forward gotta stay pending the decision of Lucerne. So it would just be this one case.
Okay.
Mr. Martin?
So if they can't, if it's conflict of interest for them because, you know, you guys are executive, ZBA is legislative, how can they sit together on this if we're getting sued? I don't,
That's my concern in it, but it sounds like Cordell doesn't see any issues with it.
he says, he's the lawyer.
That's what we're paying for.
Does this,
Sergeant Martin?
does the suit, does the suit reference
Yeah.
both the ZBA and the select board?
I think they filed separately. didn't they?
It's only a suit to the ZBA at this point, is my understanding, yeah.
I understood.
Mr.
I can
Dempster?
answer that. Bill Webster.
Yeah, I'm not.
It's listed as Madison zoning board and the town of Madison on all three cases.
Maybe that's how the.
Maybe that's why Cordell's okay with it.
Well, because Attorney Bolt accepted service.
Right.
Cordell
We
didn't
did not,
accept
yeah.
service. But you are linked.
If Cordell thinks that it's all right, and I'm okay with it on this one case for now. I mean, if we need to do it again, I'd like to revisit it, see how it went. But
Well, then I'll make a motion that we engage Attorney Johnson, Cordell Johnson, to sit as second chair at the upcoming trial,
Should it be to represent the town of Madison?
representing the town of Madison.
I'll second that. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Whole business. Sale of police cruiser. Looks like we have an offer from the Board of Selectmen from the town of Effingham of $30,000 for the cruiser that Chief Hayford was talking about at our last meeting, 2021 Silverado.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Motion.
So we just need to decide if we're good to let it go. I think that was the whole point.
So when we talk about the fair market value, because last time it was discussed, it was Kelly Blue Book value, does that include all the equipment?
No, that was just the vehicle itself. So part of this was the agreement we have planned with Effingham is that they're gonna remove a bulk of that equipment, light bar, radio, MDT equipment, the whole K9 partition package. Essentially, the only equipment that's gonna stay there is specific to that vehicle. So equipment we're not gonna be able to use in another vehicle like that. They just don't, we're not gonna have another pickup truck, so we don't need it.
That they're willing to remove the equipment and give
They're
it back to
gonna,
us.
basically take on that whole, they have someone there at their department that does that service, that removes, installs all that radio technology, so.
And they're returning it to us?
They're gonna return it to us, yep, and one thing I have the concern I had, he's an employee of the town, so it sounds like it's gonna be insured, so in case they cross a wire and fry a radio, we're gonna be covered under that, so. But that's not a concern of theirs, but it wasn't mine initially.
What was the concern?
Electronics crossing a wire. I don't do electronics, but when I hook up a battery and it sparks, that scares me. So if they're taking out wires and pulling radios, that cost us, $20,000, I don't want them to blow a fuse or make it just
Unusable.
Right,
Yeah.
unusable. Yeah. So they don't have that concern, but they're covered if they do.
How much do we estimate the vehicle equipment that is going to stay with them? Because again, Kelly Blue Book is 30,000, but how
Yeah,
much
so
in equipment are they getting?
we based it specifically just for the truck. So we bought the truck for 32,000. We're selling it a 2-year-old truck for 30,000. I am confident we are winning on this deal. They're overpaying in my opinion. But the equipment that's staying there, so a push bumper is going to be there. The center console that holds the radio, everything mounts to that center console. I have no use for it, so that was going to be included. A lot of the wiring harnesses, they're not going to be usable, and normally they don't prefer to rip all that stuff out and put it in a brand new car, just because of the wear and tear on it.
So are we going to reuse the equipment or no?
They're gonna reuse some of that equipment.
But the stuff that they're pulling out and giving back to us, we are able to
The
reuse it?
expensive stuff, the radio,
Yeah.
the computer, the printer, the
MDT,
brain.
MDT mounts, antennas, all things that we can reuse, we're gonna reuse. I mean, that light bar on top of that car is $12,000, and it's blue lights only, I believe, so they're not gonna use it.
I'm concerned that this was, the way this transpired, I'm concerned that it happened, even if it isn't required to put out to bid. We have an employee facilitating the purchase of a car to somewhere else where they're employed, without putting it out there.
See that, I'm not confused.
So we have a town employee, a Madison town employee. It's an inside purchase. A Madison town employee facilitating a purchase for their other employer.
I'm not employed I'm not employed in Effingham.
No, you said the person who is facilitating the purchase, who's also works in Effingham.
No, the town of Effingham is buying the vehicle.
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
right, and you mentioned that a Madison town employee, also employed by the town of
No,
Effingham
they have an
Police.
employee, they have I don't know if he's a firefighter or whatever he is. He's employed by the fire department in Effingham. He's gonna be the one removing that equipment, giving it back to us, and we'll put it in service in the future.
There are no dual employees here.
Yeah.
We don't have an employee who is also an employee at the town of,
No, there's 0 employees. We have Tyler Eldridge, who's a part-time police chief, or a part-time officer here who's a police chief in Effingham, but he's not benefiting at all from this. He has nothing to do with this transaction.
And he's no longer working for the town of Effingham?
He is a dual employee, but it is the selectmen that are buying it for a fire vehicle. It's nothing to do with the police department, and Tyler had nothing to do with the sale.
And you said we pay 32 for it?
32 and change. Yeah.
And this is to create a fourth police,
So that vehicle was purchased during COVID to basically service our canine program. It was the only vehicle available that we could put into service that would have this canine transportability. Now that we have it, we've been using it. It's not a sufficient frontline vehicle for us to patrol with. It's way too long. There's other challenges, transporting a prisoner in there. There's space in there that we don't use or are unable to use. It's just not a frontline vehicle. It's a work truck, and now that we have officers, I've driven it, I can't turn on a car in time or accelerate to catch up to one. It's not really pursuit rated. I mean, it's good for just cruising around town. I think the highway department asked why we didn't sell it to them. It's a great work truck, it's just not a police cruiser. For a fire department, it would be a perfect vehicle for them. So we want to get rid of it. We want to move the equipment onto a vehicle we can use that's more suited for what we're doing.
and there's been discussions of purchasing a new vehicle?
Briefly, yeah, it's that, our plan is to, upgrade to a different vehicle that we can put on the road to cover our 4-vehicle fleet we have right now.
And this leads into the question of going back to 4 full-time officers.
Yep.
I went over the budget numbers. I don't see where it is in the budget, and it was not the plan. The budget was presented to the select board as 3 full-time and 2 part-time for the end of the year.
Yeah, and I won't be, like I said before, I'm not gonna be putting a 4th full-timer on the road until January
Okay.
at the latest. So, my plan is to, fill that 3rd spot that I am missing now, continue with that fourth position with the part-timer through the end of the year,
Okay,
and then make those changes.
okay, thank you. In terms of replacement, that wouldn't happen until next year, when there would be a 4th full-timer?
In just talking with Linda and the last meeting, we mentioned that, that 30,000 goes back into the unreserved, not the unreserved, the
General fund.
general fund, and I would look to do a warrant article for that vehicle, the balance of what that is, and pull that 30,000 back out of the general fund.
Okay. Thank you.
All right,
Do we need a motion to do that?
we need a motion to sell this car to Effingham. I'll make a motion that we sell the 2021 Chevy Silverado from our police department to the town of Effingham for the sum of $30,000.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Sold.
But I do wish going forward that they are advertised, they are about to auction or whatever.
We have a bill of sale here. Do you have one you want me to sign? Or do you want to just put it in a signature item?
Yeah, please.
Okay. CIP group. So next on it. At the last meeting, there was concern based on the RSA as to whether or not it was feasible. We can appoint a committee.
Historically, there
Sounds like-
has been both,
Yeah. Sounds like we can appoint a committee.
but we can't, the select board, I assume you're gonna say, the select board cannot appoint them, but a committee may form. if I'm understanding that correctly.
The legislative body can authorize the governor, so the town meeting can authorize the selectmen to appoint a capital improvement program committee
So we would have to wait until town meeting
to have an official committee.
to have an official committee.
But if the selectmen had no real oversight over a few people wanting to get together to investigate this whole thing, it wouldn't be considered a committee, you won't be appointing them.
So they can work sort of on their own.
Yeah, it really, yeah, if you don't appoint who it actually would be, and a few people got together and decided to take it on as a project, then it wouldn't be under your umbrella of RSA.
And they would
91.
report back to whom?
Well, they wouldn't be required by law to report to anybody, but if their intention is, if they have good intentions with the CIP, then I would imagine they would report to us or the planning board.
They'd probably have to be on the agenda at the selectmen meeting, right?
Yeah, they would need to form their own group of people, get it together, and then get on the agenda here and present their findings.
So historically, it has been under the purview of the planning board, and there was also a committee previously as well. So I don't know where it last left off.
Right.
John, I believe you're on the committee.
I am, probably.
So do we know whether?
We have had, the selectmen took it over when the planning board did nothing with it. So in order to have something, the original CIP included the school. When the selectmen took it, because no one else was doing a thing with it, we just did the municipal side, which is the side that this table is concerned with. I mean, we're concerned about the school, but we have no control over that. So I don't know if we want to draw the school back into it again, but they have a different format, totally different format than ours. It's not like they would easily, I don't think they would easily merge. My recommendation would be, you gotta go out 10 years, but that's things that could be discussed. There's big projects that need to be thought out that are gonna go 10 years down the road.
And projects, not just assets like vehicles.
All sorts of projects.
Yep.
For an example, subject near and dear to my heart, the transfer station used to be repaved, hasn't been paved in over 20 years. That is a sizable expense, probably. I can't even eyeball that. $250,000.
No.
You sure?
No.
There's a lot of pavement there.
I know, but it's not gonna be, well, we can pave a mile of road, grind and repave it for $100,000, so.
Oh, there you go.
That's not a mile of road, you know. It's not, you know,
We get 2 lanes.
yeah, I know, but
Anyhow, it's a lot of money. And it hasn't, never been booked in. But anyhow,
So at this point, I guess the consensus is, Joy, if you have a bunch of people that wanna get together and tackle it, then go for it. And then come back and see us, but we as a board won't appoint anybody. And I would ask that you get your information from the town hall, but please don't overwork the ladies upstairs, they're overworked as it is.
Well, I think people who are interested in it, members of the ABC, are offering to work directly with department heads. For example, when it comes to the DPW fleet, where Dave Swift is the expert in that, it appears,
Yeah.
using iWork and all that. Member of the budget committee would like to continue to work with Dave to gather information for the DPW fleet. Examples like that.
Going forward, we put it on the warrant in March and get the town to tell us we're allowed to appoint a committee.
Can we see where it is now? Because it has been with the planning board, it's been a committee. I went back probably about 20 years and couldn't quite see where it landed officially.
when it ended,
Where it is now. Like, do we already have a vote that approved a committee?
I don't think so.
Because there was a committee, I'll have to look it up again, but there was a committee.
Noreen Downs did a lot of the legwork. We had a company come in here, we hired a company to come in here to actually create our first one, which was pretty well done. And Noreen Downs took it over and she ran it for a number of years. And then when she got out of it, after that, it just kind of,
The planning board didn't keep working with it once Noreen left the planning board.
yeah,
And when, it went on to the,
she did a great job.
the land use administrator at the time tried to take it, and then it kind of fell through, and that's when you had said that you'd like to just make something up, at least for us as the selectmen to work from. And that's, I remember you and I kind of working on it
Yeah.
a couple times. And then a few years ago, we got together with the department heads, we updated it a little bit, but it never really was something that took off.
Yeah.
There's a spot, my understanding from one of the New Hampshire municipal seminars was that there is a way for us to look up online in the DRA system when we have voted things like this. And I think that would help us know whether or not we voted in the committee and where that stands, or whether it's with the planning board.
Well, we have, ourselves in-house, we have a directory of all the warrant articles that have ever been from back to the 80s, I think. The
Okay.
town clerk's office keeps that, so it's something that could be looked up to see if there was actually a CIP committee formed.
Okay. I'll grab those dates that I found stuff in the town reports to, if that helps with reference.
So for now, we research it, and if we don't find anything, we put it on the warrant in March.
Okay.
All right. Cable contract update. Not much of an update. Sounds like the person we engaged to negotiate our cable contract is waiting for some other towns to do their thing, so that she has a basis for what we're doing.
That's what, yeah, it had something to do with the TV part of it, our Mad TV part of it, I thought. Okay. Yeah, there was, from another town, that from Spectrum, they
Yeah.
got a hassle about the language for the PEG TV channels. She's waiting to get that hammered out with that client before she brings the other clients forward that still have the same problem, so
Yeah.
she was like.
Same problem, one solution. Sounds like.
That's the way
Yeah.
I see it,
Yeah.
so she hasn't forgot about us.
Good. I like when people remember me. I don't even wanna say this. Square piece.
Oh, Michael was gonna look into seeing whether or not we could do the,
Oh, yeah.
iCloud thing, and they don't offer a mobile option. So,
But in terms of, I mean, right now folks are just logging into, like, or going on to Square as a website. It doesn't necessarily have to be a mobile option.
Yeah, have you
Yeah, it
had,
was-
Heather, have you had anybody use the Square, physically use it, or is everybody paying online?
I don't know. No, yeah, but they don't even offer, it's like a swipe of the terminal or a punch in the terminal, right? Kind of idea?
Yeah, well, unless, if we could come up with a way to run, I don't know what it would take to run it like a motor vehicle renewal or something like that, I don't know. I
Right,
mean, we could look into that.
because they use an invoicing system, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which we've been talking about doing
Mhm.
anyway.
yep. So it's potential if we change the way the rec operates and just start creating invoices for whatever people sign up for, we could potentially do it that way. And that would save us the fees. And if you're not using the actual mobile Square anyway.
Yeah.
Alright, so the rec committee has some work to do. Alright, Joy, do you have a list?
Nope, thank you.
John?
Our drawdown is, we're just about even, off by less than 0.5%. So we're gonna be in good shape. Transfer station exceptionally busy this last 4 weeks, but this weekend was particularly busy. And we're running ahead of last year's pace by about 4.5%. We've brought in to date $50,098. That'll pay for something, I'm sure. And we are short-handed. But hopefully we're back up to snuff. That's all I got.
Right. There he is. Screen and sand.
Yeah, so I talked to Burke today, and they came to pick up the grader,
Yep.
and asked them when we were gonna get the screener, because we can take it anytime now. And they,
What was that?
the screen,
Oh, okay.
to screen winter sand and to screen the ball field sand, so they just brought it up to Glenn. I talked to the truck driver, I didn't talk to Jeff. Jeff said the same thing, they just brought up to Glenn, I don't know if it was Glenn Sand and Gravel or whatever, they just had to screen some loam with it, and when they're, as soon as they're done with it, they'll bring it in.
Perfect.
Any word on our grader?
Last I spoke to the Jeff Slade, it landed in Richmond, Vermont, which is where the Cat dealership in Vermont is, and that's where they're gonna install the wing tower and the plow frame.
We're getting close.
So it's getting close, yeah. When first he said it's in Richmond, and I'm like, Richmond, Virginia? What that, you know? And then he said, no, Vermont. Oh, okay.
A little bit closer.
So I would think it shouldn't take them more than a day or two to put that wing tower on and plow frame. Hopefully they have it, I would imagine, and get it here hopefully within the next couple of weeks.
So we'll see it before snowfly.
Yeah, I hope so.
What is its weight when fully loaded?
What's that?
What is its weight when fully equipped?
The weight of the I
grader?
don't know off the top of my head. I would be on the spec sheet. I don't know off the top of my head.
I thought it was 40,000 tons?
So I think it's somewhere in that neighborhood, yeah.
Because I think that's kind of like where 120 and 140 comes from, is 120 is 20,000 tons, and
Yeah, I'm not sure.
what are the weight limits on our dirt roads?
I don't know, 6 ton. Well, that's the weight limit. I don't know.
It's a low limit.
Yeah, load limit. I don't know.
Is the grader gonna be sinking into roads, or?
No, it's not. No. It's the same weight as the grader that we've been renting from. It's 140 that we've been renting from Burke's. It's the same grader, same size. So both are 140. So it will sink into roads if there's mud, if they're muddy, but anything will sink into a road if it's muddy.
So you can't grade mud anyway, so
Yeah.
Can, but it's real hard.
you can try like
No,
it.
it's not.
All right, Linda, do you have a list? Mr. Brooks?
No list.
No list. Chief? Nothing?
Nothing. Working on a grant for highway safety for 2025. So anticipate we'll have the same grant we had this year for speed, DUI, join the click, drive sober, get pulled over. So
Join the click. Last I heard that was a bad idea.
that was click or ticket.
Oh.
Well, maybe the different click, but
Oh, Josh?
You got my list.
Yep,
Right.
sure did. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and what we're done, and we got a lot of work to do. I just want everybody to know that I know all those things are priority for whoever's road that is, but, you know, we kinda gotta take priority on where the worst, and try to work that way. Did I tell you guys, oh, the backhoe at the
Yeah.
transfer station?
What do you wanna do with that?
Yeah, we gotta talk about that. What, you know, you guys are the ones that use it the most, but that thing is
It's
done
tight.
for, and we gotta put about, to make it last even a little bit longer, we'd have to put under 10 grand into it.
Well, you're not gonna get it into winter because it ain't gonna handle the snow pusher. Didn't do it last year.
It won't. So right now, the 420's there, and we gotta do a little bit of work, cause the clamshell bucket's not working.
Yeah.
So we're gonna, you know, set
Can
it up
you-
so the clamshell works.
Can you get by if we get rid of that old backhoe and we take the 20?
Yeah, absolutely, I think that'll
can
work,
function
but
here.
we gotta have, it's gonna have to be replaced, you know, we kinda need a backhoe, and, you know, especially in the winter time, but when we need it now, like, in the off, you know, when you guys aren't open or not using it, we can just come get it.
Yeah, because we use it primarily on the weekends.
Right. So, yeah, we can live without it for sure, but I don't wanna put any more money into that 416.
It's pretty tight.
It's a 98, and it's
floor,
just constant work.
20,000 hours.
Yeah, I think it's 22 or 24,000 hours. Got it in 1997 or 8.
Yeah.
So we can suffer through the winter and then consider it on the warrant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the choices. I think our choices are run it until it grenades, which is, it's right there. It could be any second. Or try to get rid of it now. Maybe we can get something for it.
Yep.
Put it out to bid, on municipal bid, or put it out front here, or, you know, with a bid date.
I
or
mean, if you
something.
guys can get by, you know, Eric runs it, and he's always got a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Always got a problem. And we need something dependable. And he pushes snow.
Yeah, this big, to have him there in the wintertime to plow the transfer stations.
So if we can suffer through the winter with moving theirs down to the transfer station and put that one out to bid,
Would be nice.
I'm okay with that. Anybody else okay with that?
I'm fine with it. I mean, I just didn't want to leave them short, but come winter, we need a better unit, because we plow with it all the time.
Josh has a
So do you want to put it in the
question.
paper? What do you guys want to do?
What do you think's best option, municipal bid?
Municipal seems to be working out pretty good, but, I mean, it gets it out there, you know, nationwide, so
Right.
anybody that's on municipal bid, we can put it out here too, and
Can do both, just
Do
put it out
both.
front and put it
Yeah.
on municipal bid?
We did both with the Oshkosh.
Yep. Yeah, we ended up selling that, in what, Virginia? What
yeah,
month?
it was Virginia, the guy bought it out of Virginia.
Do police cruisers go on municipal?
Yes, yeah. My opinion, I don't think you would get that kind of money on a bid process for that vehicle, that's just my. And just one other thing, I told you about, because I heard some, about the grader, I heard some hubbub that people are upset, and I don't know if this is what you were getting at, Joy, that, you know, we're getting a 140 as opposed to a 120, which is we already had. It's a bigger machine, there's no doubt about it, so did I tell you this already? So I priced one out with Caterpillar, a 120 versus what we're paying for the 140, and it's about $10,000 less than the 140, same equipped. And it would take us a year to get, and he said that you wouldn't get as much for our trade, you know,
On the
we'd
one-
lose it in our trade value by waiting a year to get
Yeah.
it.
Was it priced out at the same time as the 140?
No, I just priced it out right now. The 140, that 140 was just available, it just happened to be available. 120s aren't available. Like you said, we'd have to wait a year to get it, if we bought it now.
Anything else?
I did come up with one thing that I should mention. State primary election is a week from today. Same polling place, same hours, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the elementary school.
We need selectmen there because we're electing a governor.
We are electing a governor. It's, we've had this philosophical argument before, John. The way I read the statute is you shall be present. But
So it's,
do me a favor, if we can get a quorum of the board there for right around the middle part of the day when the
when the guy
Attorney
shows up.
General's there to inspect, that would be helpful. Because they never send you nasty letters, the nasty letters come to me when
Yeah.
there's no selectman present.
I don't have to read them though.
But Tuesday is not the actual election of the governor, it's just the primary to
It's the primary,
to-
but,
the candidates.
yeah, so you're splitting hairs there, but we are selecting candidates for governor, so. Definitely the one in November, you're all three supposed to be there all day, the way I read the law. But
That is the way it's written in my understanding as well.
Can we get official clarification? Can we have someone split the hairs legally for us? and
Oh,
let us
yeah,
know?
you can have, what do they call that, Linda, the pro tem, you can appoint
Oh.
your own pro tem seat. And we tried that with, that's worked out great with the moderator. Nobody's ever, if you have a quorum, I think nobody's ever been prosecuted, let's face it. We've done this a lot of times even. We've done it 3 times since I've been in this position and never had the whole board there and never, nobody's getting prosecuted.
Will you be around?
I can open. I got a doctor's appointment at 10, I can be back by 11.
I only bring it up to people because we did like 14 absentee ballots today for people that just realized there's an election coming up. Apparently they don't have television,
Apparently they don't have Channel 9.
but
I don't have Channel 9.
Well, you're lucky, oh my God.
I don't have social media either, so I'm in the dark all the way around.
so,
Smart.
I'll be there. I'll figure it out. We don't want to get our wrists smacked. All right, Heather.
I can be there for part of the day, so we can tag team it.
School started today, soccer starts tomorrow, field hockey starts Monday. We have goals, nets coming from OSP for field hockey,
Great.
very cool.
Did we get soccer nets down?
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
up, we get
I saw
that
them.
very next day, yeah.
Yep,
Perfect.
yep. We have a
Yes.
field.
Yes.
when,
Where's Wayne when you need him?
Exactly. Yeah,
when do you want to do that?
line the field,
Hmm.
that's right. He helped last year.
See, now I don't even have to be there. I like this.
You could still be there.
But we could still answer the question.
When?
We don't know,
Well, you were talking
because it
about
was just us at one point, so it was
Wednesday
like.
night. We were talking about Wednesday night.
Yeah,
Wednesday night being tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
Tomorrow around 4:30, 5 o'clock. Do you have 5 o'clock?
5 o'clock.
I don't
Tomorrow.
think I have anything else.
I have to be back here at
So
7.
5 o'clock, her time, so what, 6:30?
I'll be there at like
6:30.
5:30.
So what's gonna happen is she's gonna show up, then she's gonna, I
Run
forgot something at home, and then
right.
she'll come back when we're done.
How it is. Okay. Anywho, so soccer's tomorrow, field hockey Monday,
Flag football?
flag football, but I'm not in a loop with that. I know I keep trying to get stuff, but they are gonna start probably next week. I think that's it for now.
How many kids we have playing soccer?
There was 13 on the little kids team last I looked, and like 13 on the big kids. Not a huge.
That's a good number though, makes it
is,
easier for playing time.
yes. In field hockey, we're recruiting as we speak, but there was like 10, which is also good, so.
Yeah.
We'll get more.
Do we
Now that we're in
have
school, we can recruit.
dimensions for a field hockey field? Because I assume you
I
wanna
will
paint
get
a
that.
field,
Yes.
not tomorrow.
We got, yeah, no, but we got games scheduled too, so.
Yeah.
Sure, as long as you got a diagram, we can figure it out.
Somebody came in today and wanted to be a coach, and they said for soccer, but they hadn't connected with you, and so anyways, I put some paperwork upstairs that, if we can
Yes,
connect.
I think I know who they are.
Okay.
Yes.
He's
They're gonna help.
British, so hire him.
Yes, then it's exactly
That's
who I
fine.
thought it was, yes.
Yeah.
They're gonna help, yes, Johnny,
He-
yeah,
He's, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. But,
I need to get in that form though.
well, I
Yes.
did, he
Oh, perfect.
filled it out, I put it in your box, but I didn't know, he didn't know you is what they
Right.
told me. So anyways, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew about what was before,
We knew he was coming.
before I signed him up for a,
Right,
background check, I wanted to make sure you were aware
Yes.
that all this was going on, so.
perfect, thank
There
you.
should be 2, right?
Yeah, I think there's 2,
One for
Okay.
opposite sides of the world.
I just
Both
asked.
great at soccer, so.
yeah.
What, South Africa?
And,
Mexico.
and they actually helped ref the game last year,
Yes.
so it's the same people, so it's cool.
So anyways, there's something in your box, let me know if
Yeah.
it's okay to go for.
Perfect. Yeah.
Reminded me of something. I just wanna let you guys know. So we started putting in the playground today. And just so you know, and I'm not, this isn't a complaint or anything, you know, it's cost us $500 to dig that hole, and it's gonna be more than that in concrete. That we, you know, they have to be set in concrete. I'm not paying for the highway department. I'm just gonna pay for it out of the highway department budget. I'm not sure how that's gonna go. We also put fabric down underneath it, which probably costs, you know, $600 or $700, and that's coming out of my budget. It's all coming out of the same pocket. I mean, the way I look at it, I don't care.
Is it hurting your bottom line
Well, obviously,
enough for you to be upset about it?
no, I'm not upset, but it's not done for free, you know.
Right.
And I appreciate the parents, you know, volunteering to come. There's nobody that's gonna dig all those holes there.
Not necessarily true, because that is an SAU 13 thing, and that is Freedom, us, and Tamworth. So we should put together what it cost us and present that to SAU 13's superintendent and see if there's something they wanna do about it.
Yeah, like why we're paying for it.
If it was just the town of Madison, it's the same taxpayer dollars, but it's not.
So it'll be finished tomorrow, but I really don't want the kids playing on it for a couple days. I want that concrete kind of cured up. Because those are heavy, those are big.
So if you can give Linda a list,
Okay.
and if you wouldn't mind approaching Dr. Whalen about if there's something the district can do.
Sure.
We do maintain their property.
I think we're the only town that does that.
It used to be, they used to have their own contract.
Yeah.
And I couldn't, because of the same pocket, I looked at them saying, we can do it less money than paying a contract.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's
The
no doubt we
contractor
can
was
do it for
getting
less money.
$12,000 a year to cut the grass. That's like insane.
There's free handouts all over the place.
Huh?
There's free handouts all over the place. We hand to them, they hand to Eldridge Transportation, it's fine. Anything else, Heather?
No.
All right. Before I get myself in any more trouble.
Signature.
Signature items, yes.
So that top one is from Health Trust. It's something that we already offer to our retiree aged employees, not that we have any, and it hasn't come up in a couple of years, but they changed the way it's done, so we just have to re-sign the agreement. We don't pay for it if someone's of the age 65 and they want to use this particular, policy to supplement their Medicare, Medicaid, whichever one it is.
Medicare.
They can buy that because they're an employee or former employee that has been insured by the town of Madison. They can purchase that through Health Trust. It doesn't cost us anything, it's just something that is available to them.
So signing this, nothing's coming out of our pockets then?
Nope.
No.
And it's actually, we already have the agreement to do something similar, but they've changed, Medicare has changed the way it works, and that they had to update their thing on the same kind of idea. I talked to my Health Trust rep, and he tried to explain the Medicare A, B, C, D, all of that to me, and it's kind of Greek, but the bottom line is, it doesn't cost us anything. We don't have any employees right now who can use it, but it would be there.
It's just me.
What is that? Oh, yeah, that was the amendment, the extension on the hazardous mitigation grant that we started, gosh, 5 years ago or some crazy thing. It extends it for a couple months so that we can still try and get the money.
Yeah, and I don't really understand. That's the one that we were, 2 years or more, it was waiting in queue to be reviewed,
Right.
and it has finally been approved. I think this is a formality, and it came to us from the contractor that we use to do the plan update. Bottom line is, we're signing this to keep they've amended the performance term on the state's part, and that state money is just going to the contractor anyway, it's not. We're just a pass-through. The town of Madison is the means for the contractor to get money.
So this was for the creation of an
It
emergency?
was an update of the hazard mitigation plan, it has to be updated every 10 years, or 5. In any event, it's
And we receive a grant to do that?
well, yeah, about every 5 years, the grants become available. It's funny how that happens.
And $7,500 covered the full cost?
Yep. And our only, we had to have what was called a soft match,
In-kind work.
which was all of our
Time in
time
those
for
meetings.
department heads sitting around updating their pages and stuff like that. It all factored at the hourly rates and everything, so we met our contractual match with time, no money. Of course, everyone that was sitting at the table was getting paid.
It looks like there's an initial on this page and an initial on the next page as well. As well as a signature on one of those, I would imagine.
So, when was it completed?
I'd have to look back, it was, the fall of 23 maybe? No, 22. It was literally in
Because we
queue
started the other one.
at FEMA for a long time.
That was the Bill's sale.
So what do we need to sign on this, Linda? Oh, I see it.
I got a question.
Big hole, yeah.
Let me look at my, I made no note on my copy.
Linda, do we initial both pages?
I would think so, I think so.
Big hole, did it end up
Is there more than,
by the time you get it off?
can't go wrong if we do, I think.
Oh,
Even though-
This looks like,
Yeah.
get it set up for just.
Yeah, I think that part, that was the new, oh, that was the Udall. And then the notary part, if we need it, because we have the title, so I think the bill of sale is more like the part so that we are clear on who gets which parts of the equipment.
Right, yeah, the conditions on that second page, I really know.
Yep. So,
the question I had, Linda, on the MS4, why do we show no commercial land in town and no commercial buildings in town? We do have commercial properties in town.
I don't know, are you in the village district part of it though? There's two, there's like.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you're
so
right.
there's
It's
there's
not on that
like
page.
one little page there that kind of breaks down the village district and the
Okay,
rest
because
of
I'm
it's
saying
all
myself, I
us.
know you're commercial property. Thank you.
some doesn't need a signature, but it's looking for your name on 2 pages.
So, yes.
Yeah.
No signature on that one, Joey, just a printed name on 2 pages. All right. With that, I will motion that we enter non-public per RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, little a, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or the disciplining of such employee or the investigation of any charges against him or her unless the employee affected, 1, has the right to a meeting, and 2, requests that meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted, followed by a non-public per RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, little b, the hiring of any person as a public employee. Roll call vote.
John, I.
Joy, I.
Adam, aye. Thank you.
Do you wanna stay down here or go up?